Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Weymouth Town Council Financing Governance Committee meeting on this sunny evening, Wednesday, the 30th of April, 2025. That's councillors present, officers. Thank you very much for supporting us. There are no members of the public, should you be keeping a tally on that sort of thing, and welcome to anyone watching at home. I believe we're all here that should be here, aren't we? One of the quick hands up. Excellent. So there shouldn't be any apologies, because if you have apologised, you're actually here, which probably result in another apology. As they don't exist, let's not approve them. Any declarations of interest, please, folks? There are none pre-notified. No. Thank you very much. And I trust everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes of the last meeting, which I assume was ably chaired by Councillor Furman in my absence. Are we happy to agree that they are a true and accurate record of that meeting? Thank you for proposing. Councillor Leary, Councillor Harris seconding. Votes for. Thank you very much all. There are no pre-notified councillor questions. Let's be brave. Anyone like to answer a question? Ask a question, not answer a question. Better ask them first. No, that's not pre-notified. Thank you very much. And no public questions and no members of the public to ask them, should they have come on spec. So we'll move on to item 7, the first of our agenda items, as it were, which the Deputy Town Clerk will be introducing regarding revised financial regulations.
Thank you, Chair. Members will see that we've got both the financial regulations and standing orders on the agenda tonight, just to recommend to full council the adoption of any amendments which we yourselves may wish to make. It's good practice that we review these regularly, ideally once a year or whenever there's any material changes. In regards to the revised financial regulations, there's just a couple of areas which I have to bring your attention to. First of all, the Appendix B, which is just the limits of authority that officers have to spend, which we just need to tweak every now and again to reflect any changes in titles or staffing changes. And the other one, more importantly, is to change the section on contracts to reflect the procurement regulations 2023, which became live in February of this year. So we've just removed any references to previous legislation, and it now reflects those new regulations that we need to adhere to.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak to this one? Or are you happy that I propose it, Councillor O'Leary? You have to second it.
Yes.
You're trying to propose it. I apologise.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay, thank you. In that case, votes for, please. Unanimous, Chair. Thank you very much. The risk of sounding like our current mayor, it's all going far too smoothly. Wait for it. Item number 8, revised standing orders, which the Town Clerk will kindly introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to help with the rather rash statement that it's all going very smoothly by introducing the amended standing orders to you all tonight. So they're being brought to this committee prior to going to full council or in May. There are a number of amendments throughout the document. I won't take you through each one individually. I'm sure you've all read it. This version of standing orders has been to the TAG group, and group leaders were asked to talk to their group members about it. So I'm hoping we've had all the feedback in. There are the main changes you will see are to the scheme of delegation and to the section around TAG. Membership of TAG has been expanded to include the chair of HR and the chair of planning and licensing. And there are some further small tweaks to the scheme of delegation at the end of the document. But I'm happy to respond to any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's a just over 12,000 word document. Would anyone like to comment on a particular part of it? Councillor Harris.
I'd like to make one very small amendment if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Well,
and it's for the orders in section 29.5. That can be brought up on screen.
I have it open in front of me. Yeah, just a second. Yes. This is the leader of the council.
That's right. So 29.5 will work with with the town clerk and TAG to ensure the corporate plan. So the leader of the council will do that. I'm proposing that we change the name TAG to EAG. The T in TAG stands for the. EAG stands for the Executive Advisory Council, because I think it's made up of the senior people of the council, and it would be very useful if we actually recognised our responsibilities in that capacity, and consequently tried to ensure that what we were doing in TAG was actually ensuring the best possible well-being of the council in all that it was doing. So all I'm proposing is that we change the T to the letter E. I've sent out to TAG members some justifications for this, which will be discussed. And obviously TAG themselves, or EAG, if they become EAG, will be able to bring back to full council what some of those changes might mean if we go ahead with them. Anyone second me, please?
So I want to comment on.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, sorry, Christian Town Clerk, are we as a town council going to have a committee or a subgroup or a advisory group with the title executive, bearing in mind that a town council cannot have legally an executive, is my understanding under the 2002 local government plan.
I certainly don't see any issue with that. I
It's not
think where,
by leadership. Advisory council, advisory group, but that's fine, I'm happy to
Lag.
with executive. Lag. There's already something else.
We got that.
the issue may come if the word cabinet was used.
Yeah.
But
Councillor Weller.
Two things. First of all, I think it would be helpful for I'm happy with what's being proposed. But I think it would be helpful for the deputy leader to be included in that, so that you've got a backup. The deputy leader knows what's going on, so a greater inclusion of the deputy.
so that's to include in the membership of
Yeah,
EAG.
and the other thing is, EAG is a very, very ungainly word. So could we keep the and call it T, so it's TEAG?
Yeah.
Just because it's a much easier word to say.
Yes.
If you imagine someone creeping up behind you and stabbing you between the ribs, that sort of gets you how you would pronounce it, yeah, but I take your point.
Do that after you, David?
I'm not permitted to talk about that any further. My observation, having a quick look through, as councillor Furlong points out, is that it also TAG crops up 4 other places in the document, from 29.16 to 19.
Yeah, we'll run a search and correct them all if approved by the committee.
Not rocket science, but would anyone else like to comment around?
No, I can't read it for my residents.
Sorry, councillor Weller, have another crack.
The other point is 1.8. Which I'd like to propose comes out, because in fact, it's really early on, right at the very start, and it says something, I've gone all the way down to 29, so I'm now having to scroll back to 1.8, sorry. It says something about, verbal notice given in advance. If you've got it straight in front of you,
I
right?
do, so 1.8 states.
Chairman,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah,
Chairman.
You bring that one in after we check.
Oh, right, sorry, I thought we were gonna vote for them all in one go. I'll wait.
Shall we, for the
Might
sake
not like
of,
yours. Might not like your one.
it's a good point. Let's vote on the making
I'm sorry.
TAG, not EAG, but TEAG.
Yes, absolutely.
David's proposed it. I'm happy to second that. Votes for?
Is it
We're gonna call it
TEAG?
tier.
Is that what we're voting on?
Yes.
TAG, wherever the
Yeah,
tag
yeah.
appears, it becomes TEAG.
Votes
The
for?
executive,
Advisory group.
Which you've just been nominated.
Yeah, that is 9-4, Chair.
Against? Abstentions? I don't care. Thank you, councillor Fern, for your candor. Brenda.
So the second one, Chair, you may want to consider the inclusion of the deputy leader within the membership.
Yes, let's do that one while we're here. Are we, councillor Wedder, you proposed that the inclusion of the deputy leader within that
Within
element.
that paragraph.
Again, I'm happy to second that. Votes for? Votes against? Abstention? Don't care. Don't. Councillor Weller.
1.8, an amendment shall not be considered unless an early verbal notice of it is given at the meeting. That implies that when we come into the meeting, we say we want to make an amendment to X or Y.
Mhm.
But in fact, as the debate progresses, we often, because it tends to meander quite a bit, and we often say, given what you said, could I make an amendment to so and so? And we all generally
Yeah.
speaking agree or disagree, whichever it is.
Yeah.
But this precludes us from doing it. So I'd like that to come out, so we have the option of doing that, should we want to.
I'll second that.
So literally just remove 1.8.
Yes.
Could you explain that again, please, councillor?
When we know a notice of motion is coming along, very often, as soon as we read it in our notes beforehand, we know that we want to make an amendment to that. And if we do know that, we let people know in advance. But sometimes, as the debate is progressing, we say, oh, yes, but how about if we say this or that? We can't give very much advance notice on that because it hasn't come up until then. So those amendments tend to be contemporaneous. And that clause would prevent us from having those contemporaneous amendments. So we might not want to have them, but if we've got that in, we couldn't have them.
Got you.
That makes perfect sense to me. It's been proposed and seconded. Votes for? To remove 1.8. Yeah, hasn't.
That's this time unanimous.
Goodness me. Do we now need to vote on
The amendment.
the whole thing?
The whole substantive, yes,
Standing
because
orders.
it now becomes the substantive.
Okay, so. So I propose now, let's go, any more proposed amendments? No. Are you sure? Thank you. So I will propose therefore, as per the officer recommendation on the screen, that the committee agree to recommend the revised standing orders to full council with the inclusion of the following additional amendments for adoption. 1, the renaming of TAG to the Executive Advisory Group, TEAG, TAG, I like teams. To include the deputy leader within the membership of TAG, I'll chuck it around in my head later, and the removal of paragraph 1.8. Yeah, we'll go with T though. T. Moving swiftly on, that's my proposal. Anyone like to second it? Thank you, Mrs. Councillor Dickinson. Is that correct?
Councillor Mrs.
Councillor Mrs. Dickinson.
I don't care.
Every day is a
Yes,
school day.
Dickinson.
Thank you.
a quiz.
Thank you, Joe.
Because the officer recommendation is there.
Yeah.
We got section 12 contracts in on that as well. Because you do need to include the
So that's
original.
financial regulations.
Oh,
This is the standing orders.
sorry,
Vice Chair.
do we have, was there anything else? Because the scheme of delegation, because it doesn't mention in those 3 bullet points, the scheme of delegation.
I
We
think
haven't deleted anything, have we?
No.
That's all right.
So it is, it has put the appendix.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that they didn't over, like, step on that.
So it's all the amendments in the document
Yes.
that are suggested in the document, plus those 3.
Is everyone clear on that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for seconding.
Thank you, Town Clerk.
Councillor Joe Dickinson. Votes for?
Unanimous, Chair.
Wonderful. Well done, team. item 9 relates to Redlands Community Sports Hub, which the Deputy Town Clerk is delighted to introduce. I'm sure.
So I'll try and break this down a wee bit, just to give a bit of background of where this comes from, Chair. So back in 2022, the then council membership debated funding for the Redlands Sports Centre following the potential for it closing due to withdrawal funding at that stage. And it was agreed that there would be 2 years of funding of 35 per year to be funded from the Seal Reserve to help with the maintenance contributions at the Redlands Community Sports. It was agreed at that meeting, for those with a good memory, that it was only 2 years, so that the new council makeup could then decide how they wished to continue, if they did at all, with any funding contributions that they wished to make going forward for future years. So the reports come back to primarily ask if the Finance and Governance Committee would recommend to full council future funding for the Redlands Community Sports Hub. And where that funding was coming from, and then of course whether they wanted to try and get some permanent funding from 2026-27 onwards. Now, members may be aware the recent article in the Echo where it was suggested that there could be some substantial investment funding being proposed to go into that site, which would significantly enhance the facilities there, which could impact on the amount of funding which they may need from us for future years if they needed funding at all, because 3G, 4G football pitches are very good income generation assets, so that could significantly improve their income. And I have to say, Chair, if I knew what I knew now, then my officer recommendation would be slightly different than what we've got in the report without that information being known. And I can share what that officer recommendation would have been, Chair, if that's helpful to members. And of course, members out there in the community might have some additional information which I don't have as an officer.
Okay, well, Councillor Leary would speak just a moment, but I'd be interested to hear what your recommendation would be.
So
With your time machine.
yeah, so if I had that information, probably, Chair, as an officer recommendation, it would be something along the lines of what's on the screen now, that to recommend that full council approve funding of 35,000 to Redlands Community Sports Hub for this current financial year to continue that support to be allocated from allocated earmarked reserves. Also, that members are asked to meet with the Redlands Community Sports Hub to discuss the future of that facility and the implications of the new investment, and try to understand what that means for future funding needs. And also the final part of that, on the back of those discussions, is ask that the budget working group discuss any future funding requests as a result of those discussions, to make recommendations to any future fundings beyond 2025-26, i.e. would we need to put anything into a base budget if members are minded to support it for the longer time. But that is obviously only a recommendation, Chair. Just as a start of 10, obviously you guys might have additional information or whatever to change that and propose your own.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. Much appreciated. And yeah, just for everyone's clarity, £35,000 is the same as we've contributed per annum for the last 2 years. So it's a continuation of the same for 1 more year. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, I'm opposed and happy with the recommendation, but didn't cabinet agree yesterday to what you just said in regard to about £2 million worth of funding in conjunction with some other groups? Football Foundation, yeah. So is that what you were discussing with your comment earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, based on the article.
Okay. Good. Thank you for the proposal. Would anyone else like to speak to the?
I'm having to second what is now the opposite recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Thank you. Votes for them. We are.
We have to check unanimous if people are in agreement.
Yeah. They look unanimous. Well done, everyone. Thank you, officers, for your clarity. That's helped a relatively smooth meeting thus far.
Sorry, can you just get that recommendation back on the screen? Because I'm trying to take it down here.
That does sound like a
I can send it to you.
Oh, hold on a second.
and Item 10, the information items are actions from previous meetings and the forward plan, our meeting schedule. So the recommendations that we note those items, please do note them. And at 20 minutes past 7, I will close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
And Charles said that, you're waiting for the meeting to 10 minutes just over a minute, as I remember it.
I was saying to the guys